Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 14, Text 47. Tena ayajata yagna isham, tena ayajata yagnesham, bhagavantam adokshajam, bhagavantam adokshajam, urvashilokam anvichan, urvashilokam anvichan, sarvadevamayam harim, sarvadevamayam harim, तेना यजत यज्ञेशं तेना यजत यज्ञेशं भगवन्तं मदोक्षजम् ऊर्वशीलोकमन्विच्छन् सर्वदेवमयं हरिम् तेना यजत यज्ञेशं भगवन्तं मदोक्षजम् ऊर्वशीलोकमन्विच्छन् सर्वदेवमयं हरिम्. Tena, by generating such a fire, ayajata, he worshipped. Yagna Isham, the master or enjoyer of the yagna. Bhagavantam, the supreme personality of Godhead. Adokshajam, beyond the perception of the senses. Urvashi Lokam, to the planet where Urvashi was staying. Anvichan, although desiring to go. Sarvadevamayam, the reservoir of all demigods. Harim, the supreme personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Charanarananda, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. By means of that fire, Pururava, who desired to go to the planet where Urvashi resided, performed a sacrifice by which he satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, the enjoyer of the results of sacrifice. Thus he worshipped the Lord, who is beyond the perception of the senses and is the reservoir of all the demigods. Can you repeat the translation? By means of that fire, Pururava, who desired to go to the planet where Urvashi resided, performed a sacrifice by which he satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the enjoyer of all, the enjoyer of the results of sacrifice. Thus he worshipped the Lord who is beyond the perception of the senses and the reservoir of all the demigods. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Any loka or planet to which one wants to go is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the enjoyer of the performance of sacrifice. The purpose of yajna is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, as we have explained many times, the yajna of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only sacrifice that can satisfy the Supreme Lord. When the Lord is satisfied, one can fulfill any desire, material or spiritual. Bhagavad Gita 3.14 also says, Yagnat bhavati parjanyaha. By offering sacrifices to Lord Vishnu, one can have sufficient rainfall. When there is sufficient rainfall, the earth becomes fit to produce everything. Sarva kama dugamahi. If one can utilize the land properly, one can get all the necessities of life from the land, including food grains, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. Everything one gets for material wealth is produced from the earth, and therefore it is said, Sarva Kama Dugamahi. Everything is possible by performing yajna. Therefore, although Pururava desired something material, he factually performed yajna to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is Adokshaja, beyond the perception of Pururava and everyone else. Consequently, some kind of yajna must be performed to fulfill the desires of the living entity. Yajnas can be performed in human society only when society is divided by Varnashtama Dharma into four Varnas and four Ashramas. Without such a regulative process, no one can perform yajnas. And without the performance of yajnas, no material plans can make human society happy at any time. Everyone should therefore be induced to perform yajnas. In this age of Kali, the yajna recommended is Sankirtana, the individual or collective chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This will bring the fulfillment of all necessities for human society. Thus ends the Bhakti purport and translation to Canto 9, Chapter 14, Text 47 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here it is explained, Tena, by the fire produced by Pururava, by rubbing of the aranis, and the purpose of this arousing this fire was uh, he desired to go to the planet where Urvashi resided. Anvichan Urvashi Lokam. Anvichan means he desired. Urvashi Lokam. He desired to go to the planet of Urvashi, and to achieve this end of reaching the planet of Urvashi, what did he do? He performed a sacrifice uh, by which to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari. Yagnesham, who is glorified as the uh, benefactor and enjoyer of the results of sacrifice. Ayajata, thus he worshipped the Lord by performing a sacrifice, and the Lord is being described here as uh, Bhagavantam Adokshajam, one who is beyond the perception of the senses, including Pururava's senses. He cannot be seen and approached by Pururava. Therefore, he has to approach the Lord through the medium of Yagna. Either you can see the Lord directly or contact the Lord directly. If you cannot contact the Lord directly, you can do the same by performing a Yagna and contact Him. So therefore, Adokshajam, the word is used. Because he could not see the Lord and talk to the Lord, he performed Yagna to approach the Lord, who is generally Adokshajam, not perceived by material senses. And by materialistic people, Pururava has come under the sway of material desire. Therefore, the Lord cannot be seen by him, who is beyond the perception of senses, and further qualified as Sarva Deva Mayam Harim, the reservoir of all the Devatas. So the Lord is so sublime and so noble and so glorious, so great, so superior. So how can he be approached by Pururava, who has come down by material desires? So uh, the living entity is very glorious because he is part and parcel of Krishna, but his glorious state comes down to the lowest level by coming under the sway of material desires. Interestingly, the living entity in its original constitutional position is always in the association of the Lord. But here we see the Lord is being described as Adokshajam, one who cannot be approached by the senses of the living entity. But here it refers to the material senses of the living entity. So, in contrast to our spiritual situation wherein we are always in association with the Lord, here we are not even able to approach the Lord because of being overcome by material desires. And in the spiritual world, our position is extremely glorious as a loving part and parcel of Krishna, more glorious than even all the devatas. Here the Lord is being described as Sarva Deva Mayam Harim. He is the reservoir of all the devatas. You can just imagine. See the supermost of all the devatas. All the devatas are resting in him. Their powers are resting in him. If he bestows, if the Lord blesses, then they will get their respective powers and position. And devatas are naturally very powerful and very commanding, very glorious. But the position of even a single spirit soul, every single spirit soul is more glorious than all the devatas, like that of the Lord. So the Lord is above all the devatas. The spirit soul in his spiritual constitution is also more glorious than all the devatas. Yet, if we come under the sway of material desire, then all our glory is put off. Just like the example is given, the spark when it is in fire blazes very nicely. But when the spark is comes out of the fire, big fire, then it will be put off. Its glowing nature will be put off. Similarly, the glorious nature of the spirit soul will be put off when we separate ourselves from the Lord, when we come under the influence of material desires. And this is what has happened to Pururava here and to all the conditioned living entities. Actually, Pururava had performed a sacrifice to go to the plant of Urvashi and reside with her. Imagine how his entire desire has become transformed. Instead of desiring to live with the Lord, who's most glorious, whose association is most desirable. Pururava is after Urvashi, a conditioned soul, the material body. He is being attracted by her instead of being attracted by the Lord's transcendental features. He is being attracted by the Lord's material features manifested in Urvashi. So this is actually a downfall for the spirit soul. Similarly, in our case also, uh, if we fail to become attracted by the Lord's spiritual qualities, spiritual glories, spiritual opulences, spiritual beauty, spiritual prowess, then we will fall down to become attracted by material nature. And the manifestation of the material nature in the form of beauty, prowess, power, etc. This is certainly a downfall. Uh, so that is why we have to be careful to maintain the spiritual status. Just like we call something as material prestige, there is also what is called as spiritual prestige for the soul. We have what is called a social status. The soul also has got a spiritual status. And generally, we are very cautious to maintain our status in society, among friends, among colleagues, among, if I'm a student, among students, we have a certain status, right? We have to maintain it. Similarly, we should be conscious about our spiritual identity and spiritual status as a spirit soul, and maintain and preserve that spiritual status as a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. Just like a prince is there, a very powerful king. Naturally, no, he has to maintain his status. Just like a prime minister's son, president's son, chief minister's son. So they have some certain very special status, right? Or sometimes if you are a son of a, suppose IS or a chairman, I'm just saying. So immediately, your status also becomes elevated, right? And you are responsible to protect that status. Exactly like that, we are part and parcel of Krishna, the most glorious, heroic Lord. Just like today, we are celebrating uh, Lord Rama's Vijaya upon Ravana. So that's a very glorious, heroic deed displayed by the Lord. Maybe sometime later we can discuss that from Ramayana. So his sons, Lord Rama's sons, Lava and Kusha, were equally heroic as their father. That is described in the Valmiki Ramayana. So what I'm trying to say here is, like that now you may think Lava and Kusha are the sons of Lord Rama. Actually, if you see, every living entity is the son of God, son or daughter of God, every living entity. So all living entities are actually heroic in defeating Maya, provided we stay with the fire of Rama or the fire of Krishna. Then our heroic nature is retained. Our spiritual power will be retained. So long we are Rama conscious, Krishna conscious, then our spiritual power is retained to fight off the demons of Ravana in the form of so many material coverings, material egos, engulfing the soul every moment. If you see the description by Valmiki, the very detailed, very interesting description. Volleys of arrows, lances, so many things were released by Ravana. Lord Rama very effortlessly would break all of them to pieces, tore them to pieces. In other words, similarly, if we are, because we are also part and parcel of Krishna, Rama, Therefore, if we also remain Krishna conscious, then to the volleys of arrows thrown by Maya in the form of unlimited disturbances in pursuing Krishna consciousness can be broken to pieces by the shafts of Rama's Hare Krishna, Hare Rama mantra. This is actually a fact. That's when the purport Prabhupada says, he talks about uh, he brings the angle of yajna, quoting the Bhagavad Gita verse 5.29, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Krishna is actually the enjoyer of all the sacrifices, all the yajnas, and the proprietor of all the planets. But Pururava, representing a materialistic man, wanted to enjoy the different wonderful creations of God, Gandharva Loka, this Loka, that Loka, and wonderful personalities like Urvashi, etc., for his own enjoyment. When this creation is made possible for the Lord's enjoyment, but we want to turn it to our enjoyment, then that is Ravana's policy. Every single opportunity we want to capture for our own enjoyment. But the devotee of the Lord wants to utilize every single opportunity to turn it as a service to Krishna. And in that way, experience unlimited bliss in Krishna consciousness. Seeing his Lord being served. The devotee of the Lord is able to utilize every single creation, every single opportunity as an offering of yajna unto the Lord. The purpose of yajna is to satisfy the Lord, as Prabhupada explains here. But materialistic people or even pious people want to utilize the medium of yajna to satisfy their desires. Whereas yajnas are meant to satisfy the Lord, but the materialistic people or even the karmis wanted to utilize the yajnas for their satisfaction. Actually, it's meant to satisfy the Lord, but they want to satisfy their senses. So, there is the difference between a devotee and a non devotee or karmi, a materialistic person. At least if you satisfy the Lord, it is much through the performance of yajna and fulfill your desire, it is much better than being an atheist and not offering any yajna to the Lord and simply utilizing all the gifts of God without any recognition. At least yajna is a means of recognition, recognizing the Lord's supply, recognition the Lord's superior position, either directly or through the agents of the devatas. But the atheistic person does not recognize any superior authority. He thinks that everything he can gain by his own efforts. So therefore, he doesn't offer any yajna to satisfy the Lord. So in the Bhagavad Gita 3.14, Krishna says that by performance of yajna, uh, actually one can fulfill even one's material desires. And what to speak of spiritual desires? Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha. So by performance of yajna, there'll be sufficient rains, and from rains there'll be grains. And not only grains, the earth will not only produce grains from rainfall, the earth will be replete with all material opulences and richness for living happily in this world, even materially. All necessities of life, grains, fruits, flowers, vegetables, even valuable jewels, minerals, everything is obtained from the earth. So Prabhupada went on to say one place that even if there is shortage of petrol, Krishna can supply unlimited petrol if need is there. The Lord can produce any amount of material wealth and material opulence. He can create also if need be. Similarly, food also. People are concerned about overpopulation. But then If need be, the Lord can increase the production any number of times, increase the rains as much needed. Everything is in the Lord's hand because He is the supplier. Eko bahunam yo vididati kaman. He can supply, taking compassion upon the living entities who are actually His children. The Lord can supply any amount, provided we are Krishna conscious. Otherwise, sometimes there is restriction to bring us to senses. Prabhupada says one place. Just like sometimes at home, suppose a child is sick, then the doctor prescribes fasting. Then the mother will not give food to the child. But that does not mean the kitchen store is empty. In the kitchen, a lot of food grains are available. And in the dining hall, a lot of food is available. But the child is being denied because of his disease, because of the doctor's restriction. Exactly like that, there is enough in the creation. But if we become godless, which is a kind of diseased state of the soul, then in order to cure the disease, there'll be denial of material supplies. And one will also be denied spiritual opulences. Actually, the soul is always in a self satisfied state, as much as the Lord who is self satisfied. But now we are full of shortage because of lacking Krishna consciousness. So much of shortage. Everything is a shortage. If you become Krishna conscious, there'll be no shortage. The soul will be filled with spiritual opulences. The soul will be fully satisfied in Krishna consciousness. So much so there'll be no more material hankering. No more material hankering. Then there is no fighting with Maya also. There are two ways. Either you fight with Maya or you are so much fully satisfied, there is no war with Maya. Because you're not attracted to Maya. Just like the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, there's a very, very nice reference. Nara Narayana Rishi, who is actually Krishna and Arjuna, uh, appear in Kali Yuga as Nara and Narayana. Lord Krishna appeared as Narayana and Arjuna appeared as Nara. And they're even now present in Badrikashrama. They'll remain till end of Kali Yuga, performing tapasya to benefit the world, to benefit all of us, for Loka Kalyana. They're sitting in Badrikashram, performing all kinds of severe austerities so that we can enjoy life. So, when Nara Narayan Rishi, they were performing severe tapasya, Indra became alarmed and he was anticipating that probably Nara Narayan Rishi will take over my post. So he became filled with anxiety and then he immediately sent wonderful, you know, denizens from heaven to disturb Nara Narayan Rishi. So the most beautiful apsaras were sent to Badrikashrama to disturb Nara Narayan Rishi. And they came and presented themselves in the most charming, attractive, beautiful way. But Nara Narayan Rishi were absolutely unagitated. In fact, they didn't even uh, bother to look at them. Then the Lord thought, okay, let me play some game with Indra. Okay, you have sent so many beauties to disturb me. Let me have some fun. So what Narayana and Rishi did, so he didn't become angry at Indra. On the other hand, he started manifesting uh, beautiful personalities from his own power. He started manifesting unlimited beauties, beautiful personalities. They started coming out from his uh, body, manifesting from his body. And then when these heavenly damsels saw these unlimited beauties come manifesting from Nara and Rishi's transcendental body, they became ashamed of their beauty. They became ashamed and they became embarrassed seeing the beauty manifested by the Lord. And they retreated. They actually went back, being ashamed. So, this is the power of Krishna consciousness. That if we become Krishna conscious, Rama conscious, so much spiritual beauty, spiritual power, spiritual opulence will be bestowed by the Lord, that there is no more fighting with Maya. As a sadhaka, we are fighting so much, trying to control our senses, avoid so many ill effects of Maya, disturbing the devotees' sadhana. But if we work the other way around in trying to increase our Krishna consciousness in our Krishna conscious activities. See, we are performing Krishna conscious activities, but what is the Krishna consciousness in that Krishna conscious activity? If that is increased, then the Lord will be very pleased to manifest all His opulences, His beauties, His glories. So much so that we'll be drowning in that ocean. Hmm? Maya is no more a problem. So we have to pray for the Lord to become victorious over Maya. So to pray. So when for that we should uh, take the assistance of the Lord. Lord is our strength, our might, our help, our resource, everything. Lord is everything for us. So with that consciousness and intent, if we perform our Krishna conscious activities, taking the support from the Lord. How do we take the support? That is by the chanting of the Lord's holy name. Because today our contact with the Lord is even more fortunate. We are even more fortunate because we have the uh, Lord's personal holy name. So anytime we can keep the Lord with us. Anytime. Call for the Lord and take His association and fight out Maya and become victorious. So lust is no more a problem. Maya is no more a problem. So Prabhupada says that so this by performance of yajna, there will be all opulences on the earth, and therefore the earth is being described as sarva kama dugamahi. Earth can produce all necessities of life. So similarly, all paraphernalia needed for the service of the Lord will be supplied by the Lord by the constant chanting of the holy names and the constant service to the Lord. So whatever we need to serve the Lord will supply and arrange. We don't have to make any extraneous arrangements. We should only work on increasing our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says, in this age of Kali, the yajna recommended is Sankirtana. Sankirtana yajna, individual or collective chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So will bring the fulfillment of all necessities for human society. Uh, in the again in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, there's a verse which describes uh, about the glory of this Sankirtana and the power of Sankirtana brought by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, particularly in Kali Yuga, to assist us. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopanga Strapashadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayir Yajantihi Sumedasaha. So when Lord Rama came, Lord Krishna came, they came with weapons to kill the disturbing demons who are disturbing the devotees' peaceful seva to their lordships. But when Lord Chaitanya came, he didn't come down with any weapons like a chakra, gada. You don't see Lord Chaitanya carrying chakra and gada. The Lord, four hands has four divine paraphernalia. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. Two are for protecting devotees, two are for killing demons. The lotus and the uh, Shankha is to bless the devotees, and the Chakra and the Gada is to kill the demons. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come with any weapons. Prabhupada explains why. Because Kali Yuga, people are very, very weak, and they are killed by their own sinful actions and reactions. So they're already in a very, very, very weak condition. There is no more need to use weapons to kill them further. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya brought down the Sankirtana to actually deliver them. But killing is another purpose of the Lord. So by killing the demonic propensities, Asuric propensities, the Lord actually delivered them. Simultaneously, the Lord killed and protected the Jivas in Kali Yuga. He has killed the demonic propensities, and he has protected the soul from further degradation. So, Sango Pangastar Pashan, this associates where? The Panchatattva. Lord Nityananda, Advaita, and they were his associates, Sangha Upanga. And Astra, the Lord's Astra was only one, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is Prabhupada explains. Chaitanya Chaitanya explains. So the Hare Krishna mantra is the most powerful Astra. You see, Valmiki Ramayana, if you describe, is a very interesting, breathtaking episode. As I said, maybe sometime later we'll discuss. Breathtaking fighting between Rama, Ravana, Lakshmana, Ravana. Very interesting fighting, breathtaking fighting. So many volleys of weapons on either sides. Interestingly, with one Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all kinds of weapons, innumerable varieties of weapons of Maya can be countered by one single mantra. Therefore, it is called Mahamantra. Just like there's one description of the Gandharva weapon. It can release variety. If you release the Gandharva weapon, it can release varieties of weapons. It'll expand into missiles, into javelins, into lances. It'll manifest. You release one weapon, it'll manifest many, many multiple weapons. Like that, one Hare Krishna mantra can counteract all the evil effects of Kali Yuga and the disturbances of the devotees, which they have to face in the course of their serving their Lordship and become victorious. As Rama was victorious, he is ever victorious. Krishna is victorious, ever victorious. Lord Chaitanya is victorious, ever victorious. The Hare Krishna mantra also is ever victorious. So we should take shelter of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and bring in good fortune and and reinstate the soul's spiritual status. So stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.